Okay, we are live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to a Mexico Relocation Guide live interview. Today, I am interviewing Pat from Pat's Place in Puerto Vallarta. You're going to learn a lot about common mistakes that new expats make when they move to Mexico, a lot about Pat's services and how he can help you facilitate a lot of the things that you need to do when you move to Mexico, particularly when you're driving and things of that matter. And you're going to get to learn, what other people have questions on. So before I get too far into what we're doing today, if you're watching us live, I want you to know that in the comment section, I've included a free resource. It's completely free to you. It includes a lot of information on living and retiring in Mexico. It has information on how to qualify for a residency visa, why you would want to use a facilitator for things like that, what the difference is between a facilitator and an immigration lawyer, how to get around in Mexico, retirement discounts. I mean, it has a lot of information. So in the comment section, you'll find a free resource that you can just click and it'll take you directly to that page. You don't have to give us your email address. So go ahead and check it out. And if you're new to these live interviews, the purpose of these live interviews is to give you information and tips that you can use whether you're looking or interested in moving to Mexico or retiring in Mexico. So I want to introduce my guest. My guest today is Pat. He has a small business in Puerto Vallarta. He moved to Puerto Vallarta a few years ago and saw a need in his local community, particularly with foreigners who needed help getting things like their car registration, their driver's licenses, and just navigating the bureaucratic system in Mexico. So, Pat, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us, for anybody who's watching and doesn't know anything about your services, why don't you tell us more about Pat's Place?
So yeah, it's kind of, a lot of people say, how'd you get involved in this? And I did it all myself. You know, you go to the DMV, you go to the different offices, and a friend asked for help, and they heard that I went, and a friend of a friend, and it kind of grew organically from that. And so what we do is we serve actually all of Mexico, but with more of a specialty on Nayarit, the Bahia de Banderas, and Puerto Vallarta.
Right on. That's awesome. For those who don't know you, tell us exactly what services you offer.
We help people get their driver's licenses, their car registrations. We minimize their time in the offices or make it so they just avoid it. So we go on their behalf to go ahead and process everything. So, somebody buys a car, we work with them beforehand and say, hey, send us scans of the paperwork to avoid getting any surprise fees because it's way different than than the US and Canada down here. And so, just 1 second.
No worries. Pat is doing some remodeling in his condo, so he has some workers there now.
Yeah, whenever we get to the good stuff, here comes the little.
Of course.
So yeah, excuse me. So yeah, we just make everything easy. It's more of a concierge service for our clientele. Zero stress, minimal if any waiting whatsoever. We go to their residence to pick up paperwork, drop it off. If they have to go into the office, it's short, really short. And especially now with COVID, we really want to minimize any exposure that they have. So yeah, the other thing is also tip extension. So a lot of people are driving down on a temporary residency card, and they go ahead and come down here, and they don't know that they're supposed to go ahead and not only go to immigration, but also notify Aduana, Mexican Customs, that they've changed their immigration document, that they have a new number here. And so that is a big one that we do for a lot of people throughout Mexico as well. And we really just kind of try to point them in the right direction. So for us, like somebody says, hey, how do I do this? I'll give them the information, but it's obviously, as the benefit to using a person like ourselves is zero stress, not worrying about it, and saving time.
Yeah, all good things. I mean, you're definitely a service for convenience, but also, it saves people money or, the hassle of maybe having to travel back and forth to these offices. But you mentioned something really important, just avoiding big crowds. I mean, these places have like large lines and a lot of people just don't practice social distancing. So you avoid that for them.
That's very true. Yeah, there's multiple lines. It's kind of, yeah, especially like the Jalisco DMV here in Puerto Vallarta, one line to check in, another line to go ahead and pay, another line to go get photocopies. Oh, wait, get the photocopies before you pay. Oh, wait, you got to get paperwork checked, but if you don't get it checked, you don't have the right thing, go home, come back. So we've had people contact us and say, I've been 4 times. I know I have everything finally, but I can't have them say no to me again. Oh my God, please just hold my hand and go with me. And that's really the way it is. But yeah, you make a good point. Saving time is one of the biggest things for our clientele. I imagine for yours as well. A lot of our clientele are like digital nomads, for example. So, they can't take that time in the middle of the day and spend, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 hours waking up and getting at the office at 7 in the morning, to go ahead and wait in line. They got to work, they got to make money, So if we can go ahead and do 90% of the work for them and they just zip in, zip out really quick, that's a big thing,
Yeah.
as you know as well.
For anybody who may be watching and doesn't know what a tip is, because they're just maybe curious about Mexico, would you mind going into that? What exactly is a tip and why would somebody need it?
Yeah, so here in Mexico, if you're a foreigner, you can go ahead and bring in your foreign plated vehicle into Mexico for typically the length of your FMM 180-day tourist visa. For 180 days, they give you at the border, or you can get online, or even from a consulate, a temporary import permit. And this tip, as it's called, allows you to temporarily import the vehicle into Mexico. When you get to the border or you do it online, what they do is they charge you a small fee of 50, 60 something dollars. They charge you a deposit of somewhere between $200 to $400, depending on the model year of your vehicle. That $200 to $400 is a refundable deposit if you remove remove the vehicle from the country within that 180 days as a tourist.
Yeah.
As a temporary resident, you can go ahead and extend that tip, do a tip extension, and extend that to a maximum of 4 years. But it is complicated because when people drive into Mexico as a temporary resident, they got to stop at the border. They got to go ahead and go to immigration and be very clear that they are a temporary resident and show that sticker in that passport right there. Because if they get entered as a tourist, then the whole process starts all over, right? So I know that's a big thing that you share with your clientele, that they do not mess that up. So, okay, they go ahead, they go to immigration there at the border, they get to Puerto Vallarta, wherever they're going to, and they go to the immigration here. And their immigration goes ahead, okay, boom, we're going to go ahead and start processing your temporary residency card. So it's in process. We're going to give you a nut letter saying it's in process, or they're going to give you the card there on the spot. Kind of depends by office. I think Nayarit is a little bit faster. So at that point, it's necessary to go ahead and inform Mexican customs at the airport that you have a card or you have a new number, the nut number, whatever it is. And so that's very important. And then again, when the people go to a 3-year, get their 3-year temporary residency card, the whole process, going to the airport, submitting the paperwork, all of that stuff. So yes, a tip, very, very interesting, but important document to go ahead and stay on top of.
Now, worst case scenario, if somebody doesn't do this and doesn't extend it, what could happen?
If they don't do a tip extension?
Yeah, let's say a temporary resident comes in to exchange their stamp for their card, and they have a tip, but they don't renew it with customs or aduana. What could happen in that case?
Well, what has happened to people if they contact us is they've been stopped by federales and told to drive the vehicle out of the country.
Okay.
They want to take it all the way out. They seem to be getting a warning. What people have been doing is contacting us, and we have been able to, for the most part, be able to fix that here in Mexico without them leaving the country.
Oh,
So,
that's
but no,
great.
they will be told by the federales or now Guardia Nacional. They'll be this is said you don't have a document showing that your tip's extended. This is a different number, or we check the system. Your car's not there. No, you got to take this vehicle out of the country, or worse, have it impounded because technically it's illegal in the country
Yeah,
because
right.
the permit's expired. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
So
question.
when you come in as a tourist, you get what's called an FMM, which is a Forma Migratoria Múltiple. And that's basically your tourist permit saying that you're allowed to stay in the country. They normally give it to tourists for up to 180 days. And that means that you're allowed to drive in Mexico up to the amount of time that you have on your FMN with a foreign plated vehicle. So what Pat is talking about is if you're a temporary resident, it's a different process because you're allowed to bring in your foreign plated vehicle up to the amount of time that you have on your temporary residence. So he helps you navigate that whole process. He helps you navigate all your questions. He'll help you, like he mentioned, extend it inside of Mexico without you needing to leave the country, which in itself is a huge time saver. So that's why services like his are super important and very needed. So who is your customer typically?
Our customers are, as I mentioned, are kind of the digital nomad. They can work online. So they're working, business back in the States or Canada. They have their own businesses. So it seems to be people in there, I'd say probably mid 20s and up, through kind of like their 40s. And then you definitely have the baby boomer demographic as well. And they're retired. They're like, I don't want to stand in the offices. I don't want to be standing with any crowds. I don't speak Spanish. I don't want to deal with this. I'm here to enjoy myself. And so that's our other clientele as well. And people they don't want to get frustrated and get in the lines. I mean, quickly going back, like the whole tip extension, we have clients that even ourselves, when we'll go to the airport to go ahead and do these tip extensions, or the client's gone and the customs officer says, "Oh, you don't need that. No, you don't need a stamp. No, it's fine. Everything's fine." Or, "No, we can't do that right now. Or you got to come back." So there's a lot of misinformation, and so that's why it's so important to have a professional assist you, whether it's in immigration or even here with car stuff, because sometimes the workers there, they're being transferred from an area where they don't see very many foreigners, and so they do not know the correct process. And it's funny when we know more than some of the agents that we deal with, and say, can I talk to your boss or your colleague that previously allowed us to do this because they said this and this and this and this. So yes, definitely having somebody. It's good to have an advocate, and that's what we are, what you are. We're advocates for our clientele, get them on the right path.
Yeah, there's a common saying that Mexico is consistently inconsistent, and that's very true. Some people just aren't trained and they might ill advise you. And I mean, I'm talking about government workers too. So, one person might tell you, you need this and this and that. You go back the next day and then that list changes because you got a different person. So that's why Pat's service is so invaluable, because it's like he will tell you exactly what you need, and he will be able to talk to somebody there. If in case you tell him, no, these are not the requirements, he knows what the true requirements are. So, he'll confront those people for you, or not in an aggressive way or anything, but he'll just, he knows what the true law is. And he can navigate that process. He's done it for years. Now, you mentioned that a lot of your customers are digital nomads. Why do you think they're so attracted to Puerto Vallarta?
Puerto Vallarta it's just fantastic. Puerto Vallarta, everything's within 15, 20 minutes. I mean, right now, we had some minimal damage from the hurricane where the bridge just got washed out and stuff like that, but it's still like, right now we have 17 minutes, a 2-minute delay. It's affordable, relatively speaking, to most U.S. and there's a lot of native English speakers.
So sorry about that.
What's that?
So sorry about that. I got interrupted for a second.
No, it's all right. It's just there's a lot of English speakers here. It's a very friendly, warm populace that lives here. A lot of people have come from other parts of Mexico as well. And the weather's fantastic. I mean, even now with our rains and stuff like this, it's gorgeous. I mean, we have verdant green mountains going on right now. You know, the ocean, and even the low season is a wonderful time to be here. Where I have clients just the other day tell me, go, you know, I have a great time in the high season. I mean, tons and tons of people. But in the low season, I really get to know the locals, really get to know people and slow down and enjoy myself. And the heat and humidity that everybody talks about isn't nearly as bad as they make it out to be. Getting more back to your question for digital nomads, obviously lower cost of living here, high-speed internet, great flight hub, flying from Puerto Vallarta. You can fly anywhere you want in the U.S. and Canada, typically within about 7 to 8 hours max, you know, with transfer, something like that. Affordable flights as well, which you can't get like in Mazatlan or something. And like I said, just great energy. Everybody comes here on vacation, and it might be 3 years later or 5 years or 15 years later, but they love it here. They just really, really love it. It's got a great energy here.
Yeah, and it's very different than the Riviera Maya, right? Like, I mean, it's entirely a different type of beach culture in Puerto Vallarta than somewhere like, for example, Playa del Carmen or Tulum. I feel like Puerto Vallarta is more traditionally Mexican, and I know there's a lot of foreigners and a lot of English spoken widely, and a lot of things are in dollars, I'm sure, too. But I just feel like it is more traditionally Mexican in that, you know, the food feels more Mexican, the building, the architecture, the vibe. I don't know. What's your experience?
I agree with you completely. I've spent some time over there in Cancun and even Acapulco. And, you know, the Cancun River Yucatan, gorgeous, very spread out, very, very spread out, like getting from one city to another is like a half an hour drive on the freeway. I mean, it's kind of excessive for myself. And also, it's a more reserved culture, I would say, of the people that are there, because a lot of the workers are the people that are from that area. As I mentioned before, here in Puerto Vallarta, everybody's coming from Guadalajara, Mexico City. You know, we have just a real mix of people. And so that creates, along with the local populace, I'm married to gal, Linda, my boss of the company, actually. They love new people here and chatting with people. And they do appreciate if somebody speaks, tries to speak a touch of Spanish. You know, just that, hola, ¿cómo estás? How are you? Gracias. You know, but I agree with you that the food's fantastic. And we are only about, depending on how heavy your foot is, a 3.5 to a 5 hour drive from Guadalajara. And so there's a town of 12 million people with the greater surrounding area. And so having that of a more local Mexican tourist, obviously, like you said, gives it a different thing, whereas more of Cancun's more of a destination, you know, for Europeans and Americans. And so I agree with you with that. It does have that kind of touch of real Mexico, but we are in Mexico regardless, right?
Right. I just feel it more there than any other beach, or than the beach towns in the Riviera Maya. Just my opinion, obviously. Oh, Tony's watching us from Houston. He says, thanks for sharing your time and knowledge with us. Thanks for watching, Tony. I hope you learned something today. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for Pat, please post them in the comments throughout this whole live interview. I'll be posting them on the screen, so he'll be able to answer them for you. And if we don't know the answers to your questions, we'll also let you know that too. So moving on to just like some things that you've noticed, and you've been doing this for some time now. I'm sure you've seen it all. You've seen hundreds of customers, hundreds of foreigners moving to the area. What would you say are some common mistakes that some of your customers have made? And it doesn't even have to be related to car registrations or driver's license, but what are some common mistakes that maybe some other people could avoid?
Great question. I would say, you know, within the expat community here, a lot of people say rent first, rent for 6 months, you know, in an area. If you're like, I want to move to Puerto Vallarta, I love the Puerto Vallarta, rent a place for 6 months first. in an area, and you might find that neighborhood's not really for you. And then you try another neighborhood, and kind of get the right vibe. And some people find Puerto Vallarta might not even be the right fit for them. And so some people will go to the north to what's called Bahia Banderas on the Nayarit side. And so you have Bucerias up there, which is very popular with Canadians. It is more of a sleepy fishing town of sorts. There's not a lot of fishing, but that's very authentic Mexican. You have La Cruz, which is kind of a touch up, which is very nice. And you go out to the end of the bay, the Banderas Bay, where we're at here in the greater Puerto Vallarta, is 17 miles across. On the northernmost part of the bay, you have Punta Mita, which is where you have your Four Seasons, all your luxury stuff like that. And moving up, continue with luxury, Lidiboo, and then going on to Sayulita, which kind of feels just like California or the West Coast. It's a very, very popular surfer hippie town. Fun to visit, not for everybody. Some people love it, and then going north from there, you have San Pancho, which has kind of a hippie feel. People say the way that Sayulita used to be. And then you go farther north, you have Lo de Marcos, that's Mexico. And then farther north, you have Guayabitos and La Panita. And so you're talking about a span in that area of anywhere from 20 minutes to Nuevo Vallarta from here, which is a great area, to, hour and a half away. And so that's where your population's going through there. The internet is consistently good throughout most of the area. Some of the smaller towns have some issues. So it's important to investigate. If you are a digital nomad, if you are relying on internet, to go ahead and check on the Facebook groups or talk to your helper, that's helping you move down here. Is this a good area? Because it might vary from a neighborhood to a neighborhood, where one neighborhood has old copper and another neighborhood has fiber optic, and you will want fiber optic because your copper is going to run 1.5 to 3 to 7 to 10 megabytes per second, whereas your fiber optic, you can go ahead and get up to 20, 40, 120, or more. So it's very important to find that out. So check that stuff. I'm sorry.
Your internet is amazing. So do you have fiber optic?
Yes. So we stick with fiber optic. Once we got away from that copper, that's the way to go. It can be a bit of a challenge, for example, where I'm at here in our second home. The fiber optic runs about 2.5 blocks because the posts where they provide it are stopped. The zone stops. So, you have to have somebody to go ahead and get yourself a Telmex guy to go ahead and take care of the guy to go ahead and run, like a half mile of fiber optic wire to your house or your condo.
Yeah.
It's not like back home. And that's one of the biggest things is people got to realize after you have the fun and the drinking and the meeting new people, you are in a different culture. It's a lot slower. A lot of things don't make sense here. You just kind of have to suspend that reality and be very patient and have another margarita or take a deep breath, sometimes. So to minimize that, that's our position with our company, and then obviously with the help that you provide with your business as well. We just,
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, that's the common, anytime I've ever done an interview with an expat or whatever I see on most of the expat forums on Facebook or Twitter or any of them, it's just learn to be patient. It's not like where you're from, regardless of where you're from. I mean, it could be from Canada, you could be from the US, you could be from Europe. Things are done differently. And they're not going to be done the way that you're used to. So you just have to learn patience. And it also helps to know people like you and hire your services to help you not have to be so patient in some of those things, right? Like somebody could be patient for you. So Tony wants to know, hey, Pat, did you have experience with Puerto Vallarta, or how did you come to choose to live there?
My cousin's extended family began vacationing down here back in the 70s and just fell in love with it. And they started buying property, above the Aqueducts there. And just when it came down to it, my cousin got married down here. She met her dive instructor, the dive shop owner, she just fell in love with, and they're still married. That was in 1999. they're still married. So that's what, 22 years they've been married. So I came down to Mexico the first time, and I remember the smells. You know, when you get off the airplane and you're like, this just smells different. And then going into the grocery store, I remember it was Lay, which I actually now have live across the street from the Lay grocery store. And be like, this is a different sensory overload. It's a trip. And so that was in '99. Came back a couple times on, you know, school breaks. And then it was in 2005, actually. This year, I'm celebrating 16 years of living in Mexico.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. So how about you? Can you speak some Spanish now?
yes, I picked up some Spanish, and then obviously having a Mexican wife helps things immensely. Not all the Spanish I can always repeat in polite company. So, no, it does. You know, there's a lot of great applications to pick up some Spanish, and there's some really great Spanish schools here in Puerto Vallarta. We have an Airbnb that I'm actually in right now, and so none of our clientele come and stay at the condo and go around the corner to one of the Spanish schools right there. And their accents, my wife says their accent's better than mine when they come out of it, you know.
Awesome.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you don't need to speak Spanish to live in Puerto Vallarta or this area. The people are so kind, so warm, so friendly. You know, they smile and nod and use the hand language and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if you can pick up a few words here and there and try to take a class or two and immerse yourself, you know, then yeah, it helps, obviously. But if you don't speak a lick of Spanish and you don't, there's people I know that've lived here as long as me, if not longer, and they still don't speak Spanish. You know, so it's possible to live within the expat bubble with the Spanish people who speak English. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But your world will definitely be better if you know at least some Spanish to get by. I mean, it just enhance your experience so much more.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I agree.
Make those connections.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So you talked about patience. You know, people need to learn how to have patience. What are some other common, maybe not mistakes, but you know, learnings that maybe you can share with people that will help them avoid those frustrations?
Yeah, you know, renting first, being
Yeah.
flexible, understanding.
Do you know a lot of people that went in and bought right away? Like, is that
Yeah,
something you've heard a lot of? Oh man,
yeah.
yeah.
A friend of mine just came down from San Francisco about 4 months ago, and she'd been here 3 4 years ago to visit, and maybe a couple times before. And she goes, I'm ready. You know, she's an online nurse. She goes, I'm ready. I'm buying. You know, I'm ready. I'm going to buy here. I joked. I said, you're going to buy here? She goes, yeah, I think I will. And she did. She ended up putting an offer in, getting the house. She went more into a Mexican neighborhood where, you know, it's different. She realized, for example, you know, that, you know, the water bill gets left in the door, and it's her job to go to the water company and go pay the water, you know, like, why my water get cut off? Kind of same thing, you
Oh
know.
yeah,
Electricity. So it's important to go ahead and familiarize yourself with some of the online applications, being able to pay, you know, your electricity, your water, your phone, your internet online if possible, or familiarizing yourself where the offices are, or having somebody with that, you know.
yeah,
Being flexible, just realizing when you go out and you want to accomplish, you have a list of like 10 things to do. That's probably going to take 2 or 3 days here. You know, it's the things, you know, like if I get more than 3 things done in a day, and it's getting better now, but you know, it's definitely, it's a slower speed. As we were chatting, we were kind of pre-chatting before the live stream came on. You know, we went to go help a client get their driver's license in Nayarit a couple days ago. I always go early. I get there early, and they go, "Oh, you know what? Change of government. We don't have. They haven't updated the new signature names on the driver's licenses. No driver's licenses today. Probably next week." You know, and so I call my client, like, "Don't come here. You know, stay at home." She's like, "Oh, we're just about getting a taxi. Thank you so much." Because, you know, it's about an hour and a half of her travel time right there. That, you know, so just be ready for changes. Be ready for, you know, like, okay, well, I can't do this. I'll put it for tomorrow or the next day, or, you know, flexibility, as we talked about, for sure.
yeah, yeah. Flexibility, and definitely rent first. I mean, familiarize yourself with that neighborhood. You might not know just because it might be an amazing house at an amazing price. You have no idea who your neighbors are. It's so much easier to rent and find a different rental than it is to sell your home in Mexico. So
Very
uh,
true.
yeah, so just, there's why rush? I mean, just get to know the area first, find out if it's truly where you want to be. It'll save you so much money down the line. Uh, and you might buy a house and it might be amazing. It might be the best decision you ever made. But there's so many houses in Mexico that will always come up at a good price. So there's no need to rush into anything.
I agree with you. I think people will find what they're looking for, but you might jump off into an area where they go, hey, this is close to where I really love to hang out. And there's a bunch of roosters that start, at 4 or 5 in the morning, the barking dogs, maybe there's a family that likes to party. And so, every Thursday night it's just, you got to realize that the rules aren't always on.
Yeah,
Like
or your
my
next door
mother
neighbor.
visit. They're not laws. They're kind of like suggestions that have they may be followed or not be followed. And it is, the reality is if that family down the street's tied in, to local government or something like that, the cops aren't going to put extreme pressure on them to shut down, the 3 parties and stuff like that. So, definitely feel out, talk to professionals about, where it's a good area to go ahead and move to, where will I hear noise? Will I not hear noise? That doesn't bother me. And then also once they've bought, like doing remodeling, knowing to use a reputable architect and, having stuff like that done for if they're doing remodeling and construction, that's another whole can of worms.
Yeah, great point. I mean, that's everywhere in the world, right? Because you want to make sure that what you're doing is going to hold up not only in 1 year, but 10 or 20.
And excuse me for interjecting here. There is a thing, reality here, where people go, "No pasa nada. Don't worry, everything's fine. It's okay. It's okay." Well, until something happens, says nothing. They're saying nothing happens. Nothing's going to happen. It's okay. It's like, but when it does, it's having a professional to avoid issues is very important. Having somebody reputable to work with is good because you can do it on your own, but it might cost you more money or more time doing it that way.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned something that I want to touch on a little bit in this, general like you talked about how people might not know, or how people might have a neighbor who is tied into local government, and certain things might uh, let or be let slide because they're tied, they're family. They're not gonna
Yeah.
come and tell them to shut the party down, basically. Um, what's your experience with local government? Like, how would you help somebody who is new in the area navigate that? What would you say are some tips? And I mean, we're talking generality, so I know I can't be specific unless it's a specific situation. But what would you say? Because a lot of people have concerns that cops are corrupt and cops don't enforce the law always. So, what would you say are some general tips that you would give a newcomer in Puerto Vallarta?
It's a great question. So, for example, I've talked to a lot of people. They go, "Oh, here in Mexico, you get pulled over, give them a bribe, give them a bribe." We're like, "Don't give them a bribe. Do not bribe the cops. Don't bribe anybody, because once you get on that list and you're known as somebody that goes ahead and pays,
Mm,
they tell all their friends, and you can get fine here by following the laws, following the rules. Like I said, use reputable architects, use reputable. Just say you get pulled over, give me the ticket. Give me the ticket. If you don't speak fluent Spanish, don't even try speaking in Spanish. Just speak in English and stuff. I'm sorry, I didn't know, I didn't understand. Ticket,
mhm,
and just go with the flow, because one of the things, for example, in the state of Nayarit, the state north of here, Puerto Vallarta, if you get pulled over for a traffic infraction, they're going to give you a ticket and they're going to keep your driver's license to ensure that you go into the office and you
mm,
pay. Right? And people go, no, give them money, give them money. Don't give them money. You don't need to give them money. The ticket's going to be 200 pesos, $10, $20, $30
okay.
max. Parking tickets are like $5 here. It's an experience. It's quick to go into the office. You drive up to the mega or to the respective office and go in and pay. But we really say don't bribe. Don't do it, and you won't have any problems because they will respect that. If you want to play that game, they'll play that game. But if you don't want to play that game, it might be a little slower, for stuff. But you can get by. So no, it's not something to worry about. It's very safe and secure here, and I think they treat. I'm now a Mexican citizen myself. That we want to encourage people to come down here and enjoy living here and treat them with respect. And it's rare. Now, there's some common sense things, like walking at 3 a.m, drunk, stuff like that. You might get housed by the cops. So some people say just hop in an Uber. Because they're like, you're at 3 a.m. It's not normal. It's the witching hour. People.
Yeah.
And just like back home, sometimes there are, shootings, which are actually very, very rare here. I feel so much safer here in Puerto Vallarta than I do back in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. I have cousins that are cops up there, and another shooting. Like we don't have that here. It's like the bad guys have guns, and the good guys have guns, and the bad guys kill the bad guys, and the rest of us just kind of hang out, and we're fine, and we have no issues.
We're not their target.
Yeah, no. Expats, Americans, Canadians, we're not targets. They're not interested. Puerto Vallarta, Puerto Vallarta, most tourist areas, but Puerto Vallarta especially is do not make, don't poo in your own backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't do anything here because they don't want people to have issues, because the tourism and all that stuff is very important for the local economy.
Yeah,
so
they want to be able to enjoy those things too.
What's that?
They want to be able to enjoy those things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And even travel, driving, to Guadalajara from here and across Mexico. I've driven to Mexico City 4, 5, 6 times with my family, and never ever had an issue. Never just you drive during the day, you don't drive at night if you can avoid it, and it's a wonderful
thing to explore. The toll roads are very well paved. I mean, you can go very smoothly. One of the reasons a lot of people say don't drive at night isn't necessarily because, all the bad things happen at night. It could be, there's livestock sometimes crossing the road. You might not see the famous foot high or 2 feet high topes, which are like very big speed bumps. So these are generalities or general tips as to why not drive at night. And then also you're more likely to get help if you get a flat tire during the day than at night or, after hours. So,
when people, great question. Yeah, it's safer. There are good toll roads going to Guadalajara, but here in our rainy season here in Puerto Vallarta, we do get some pretty impressive potholes and stuff like that. And also, just to be visible and see things. With a lot of the Mexican car insurance that people get on their vehicles when they come down and they bring a foreign plated vehicle, or they get Mexican vehicle insurance on their Mexican vehicle here, a lot of times towing's included actually in the auto insurance, which is kind of a cool thing right there. So you can call your auto insurance company, they'll send a tow truck, and very reasonable, or not included in insurance right there.
Yeah, let's talk about insurance, because a lot of people don't realize how important it is for you to have Mexican insurance when you're driving in Mexico.
Yes.
So
yeah, insurance is mandatory here in Mexico. As of 2018, you must have car insurance at a federal level. It's still not fully enforced at the state level. But it's a good idea, because the thing is here is if you're in an accident and somebody's injured, you go to jail, whether it's your fault or not. You go to jail, so they have good insurance, so they'll go ahead and cover you in that regard. So they want to know that you'll pay for the damage or something like that. So in having good insurance, we'll go ahead and provide you legal services, so you don't go to jail. They'll tell you what to say or what to do to not have any issues. And then that's very, very important. Also here, it's a different. It's different. It's rough on cars down here. It's a very the humidity, the heat, the potholes. It's a different culture, car culture down here. It's not a little different.
Would you say that people go through cars a lot faster?
Not necessarily. We go through shocks and suspensions and routines really fast. So I would probably say if you bought a new car, after every car every 2-3 years. Every year there's like a little thing going on there. So it's important. A lot of people go, hey, I want to buy a cheap car. I want to buy a car that's 2-3 grand, which is, let's say, 40,000 to 60,000 pesos. That's going to be a beater. That's going to be a real rough car. You need to spend probably a minimum of $5,000 to get a decent car that has, that just hasn't, there's not a preventative maintenance culture here with the vehicles. And so by the time that, you see that car that's, $3,000, that 2003 Jetta, they never change the coolant. They change the oil sometimes. A lot of mechanics down here, it's important which mechanic you choose, because the mechanic goes, oh, it's not broken yet. You'll need to fix it. I go, no, change my U-joints. Change this. Do some preventive maintenance. You don't need it. You don't need it. No pasa nada. No pasa nada. Like, but when it does happen, I don't want it to happen in the middle of nowhere. So it's, you get what you pay for. Cars, breaking off that, are more expensive down here, 20, 30, 40% more expensive than the States and Canada. So that's kind of a surprising thing for a lot of people as well. So they hold their value well, which is great. And it's important to understand car standards are different as well. So when you buy a new car, to check, some of these cars that they have down here, the little clown cars, the Sparks, and the, these little, I call them clown cars, they're little tiny cars, they don't have the same safety standards. So yeah, they might get you around, but if safety and accidents is important to you going on the freeway, or, you gotta be careful. A little different. Other things to go ahead and consider. The government's not always out there proactively protecting you like the States and Canada.
Yeah. You won't see like the equivalent of like a state trooper every 30 miles or so.
What's that? I'm sorry.
You won't see like the Mexican equivalent of like a state trooper every 30 miles or so.
Well, yeah. Okay. So going into that, there is, you don't necessarily, the authorities every 30 miles. That's a good point. Sometimes you never see them, in certain sections, and then sometimes they're always in the same section. You go through San Pancho, the federales are always right there in San Pancho, and sitting right there. They do have a cool thing called the Green Angels here in Mexico, and so it is a free service, kind of a tow service, very basic, where they've got like a truck that goes around and tries to help you with basic things if something breaks down on your car, or they'll push you or pull you to a mechanic or something like that, no cost. Another thing is, if you're on toll roads here in Mexico, your toll includes an insurance of sorts. If your car breaks down, that they'll tow you, they'll bring you gas or something like that. However, the problem with the toll roads, they're so nice. They're like, beautiful U.S. Canadian freeways. You want to go fast. And if you go fast, you're involved in an accident exceeding the speed, where they can go ahead and show that you exceeded the speed, you voided that insurance, and they won't go ahead and cover you.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. That's interesting. How can they tell again?
If the speed limit's 80 kilometers an hour or 100 kilometers an hour, which is 62 miles per hour, and you're going 130, 140, you're going like 80, 90 miles an hour, they'll be able to kind of figure out that you didn't stop in time, the length of your brakes, all that fun stuff. So again, if you're involved in an accident due to excessive speed, that voids that toll road insurance.
Wow.
And then another thing touching on toll roads, like coming down from Nogales, for example, when you come down the 15D, what they call you have read a pronunciation of Spanish, quota? How do you say toll road in Spanish?
Quota?
Yes, that one. That's the one you want. Libre. Don't ever drive the Libre, ever, because that is like it's Libre means free. That's your free highway, and that's
the one that's full of potholes. That's the one that has life.
Oh yeah, you're gonna stop in every village along the way, and it's the experience. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but if you want to go with efficiency and speed, you want to take the toll road. Coming down on certain toll roads, through certain sections like Nayarit, north of Tepic, south of Mazatlan, there are toll plazas where they have the toll booths right there, where the local populace, like the villagers, have taken over the toll booth, and they stop the toll workers from collecting the toll, and they ask for a donation of sorts. And some people give 5 pesos, 20 pesos, 50 pesos. Sometimes there's more suggested donations versus just whatever you want to throw out right there. but it's never anything that's dangerous, anything like that. But they're taking over those plazas because they feel that the toll road that divided their property, their land, and they haven't been compensated by the government. And then also sometimes there is some organized crime at play where they have been sent out there to go ahead and collect money, and that group takes off there. But again, not dangerous. It's just kind of what happens down here. But nobody, because people say, I ask people like driving up to Nogales, driving back, driving to Laredo, or this, share with me your experience. How was your drive? Follow up with me and let me know if there's any issues. And I put that on my page, on my Facebook page, to let people know, hey, this area is an area that you kind of want to avoid right now. Like, coming down from Lukeville and crossing over and hitting south of Nogales. Nuevo Laredo has gotten a lot better. Earlier this year, it was kind of sketchy. It was really sketchy, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. The minute you cross, they had people almost within 10 minutes collecting a fee, and it could be scary for sure if that was your first time driving across the border.
Well, I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, I said cross Laredo or no Laredo, like the minute you cross within 10 minutes, they had people there collecting fees, and it could be very scary if that was your first experience crossing into
very. Yeah, and it's rare. It seems they seem to target more Mexican Americans, because they know they're coming down to visit family. They have money, they have goods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very, very. I've heard of like only maybe one, expat family where that happened to, and fortunately, nothing came of it. So yeah, this is the whole thing. Drive during the day, check your route before you come down. Certain intersections are better than others. Check with a professional, check our website, and yeah, we're there. We're giving information out for free. We want people to be happy and healthy,
I posted in the comments a link directly to find Pat and his business. He posts a lot of really great information, not just about Puerto Vallarta, but also about, like you mentioned, Mexico in general. He gave, from him was how I found out, how poorly or how badly Puerto Vallarta had been hit by the hurricane. So thank you, because I hadn't realized how devastating, the damage had been until I saw some of your videos. And then
we're very fortunate. It was a very small section of town. So basically the huge amount of rain up in the mountains came down to the rivers and washed out one of the bridges and a couple footbridges and got it in the foundation of a building, but the building will be fine. Another one, there was some damage to another building, unfortunately, where a life was lost. But yeah, it's Puerto Vallarta is open for business. Mexico's open for business. We have you come with open arms. We're excited to have you come on down here, especially we're getting post-COVID soon, or we're getting over the hump, hopefully.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that the whole state of Jalisco is slowly making itself back to green again. Muse wants to say that she read somewhere where we talked about bribes and police. That's what she's most concerned, or he. I'm not sure who this was concerned about. So hopefully what Pat has talked about gives you some peace of mind. I would agree with him 100%. Don't get bribed. There's no need. Follow the law. And, one thing that I think a lot of people have said and mentioned that can help you have your side of the story be, very concrete and very legit is to have a phone with you, have a camera, have something that records, and let that officer know that you are recording, and do not pay a bribe. Don't feed into that system, because otherwise we're never going to get away from that system.
Mm-hmm.
If we all just fold, and I get it, it can be very intimidating. It's an authority. They have a gun, and they're the authority, and you're in a foreign country. You might not know any better. But together we can really start making a change in Mexico. So anyway, I hope that gives you some peace of mind. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions to that.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. It is, you're driving down through the middle of nowhere, you get stopped, the guy's got a gun, he's saying you did something wrong. It could be very frustrating, very, very terrifying, actually. And so it's just important to go ahead and say, only speak English, project positivity, just like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and stick to your guns and not pay a bribe and say, okay, give me the ticket. If you get a ticket from a Federale Guardia Nacional, you can pay that ticket anywhere at any Federale office. So, for example, I was in Colima. I got a ticket for a headlight out there. He takes it. He checks the light. I hit the light works. Then it went out again. So he wants to, I don't know if he's waiting for me to offer. That's the other thing here in Mexico. They don't ask for bribes. They wait for you to offer a bribe. Or they make a suggestion of, well, you could go ahead and pay the ticket now or something like that. And you just kind of say like, oh, it's fine. I'll go pay the ticket. No problem. Give me the ticket. I'll pay it in Puerto Vallarta. I'll go pay it where I'm going to, and yeah, it's just, just stick to your guns and stay positive.
Yeah, just be confident. I did hear about one popular YouTuber made a really good point about this. He had driven in Mexico City, and in Mexico City, he had driven from Guadalajara to Mexico City. And in Mexico City, if you don't know this, you need a special permit for your car, depending on your driver's license or on your license plate. Depending on the last numbers of your license plate, they have this program called Hoy No Circula, which means today it doesn't circulate. And you need a special permit to drive through Mexico City if you're driving from out of state. Anyway, long story short, he got pulled over. They asked him for a 10,000 pesos fine, and he knew that seemed extreme. And the cop told him, well, it's 10,000, but if you want to pay it cash right now, I'll give it to you for 5. And that's
5,000. What a deal.
Yeah, that's when his red flags went up, and he was just like, this just doesn't sound right. And he was like, no, I don't have any cash, so just give me the ticket. And the officers let him go. He just let him go with a warning.
Yeah.
Why? Because that wasn't the actual ticket.
That's right. And you got to stick to your guns because they'll take you to the ATM. Driving at 2 a.m. He should not have been driving up in cartel territory in the border at 2 a.m. And they took the poor guy to the ATM and had him just take all this money out. I mean, there's a question right there if you are driving through, because especially that zone of Sinaloa and Sonora, once you get past, until you get basically between Guaymas and Mazatlan, there's a section right there. You only want to drive that during the day, and if you just follow traffic and you're good, you won't have any issues. But yeah, it is funny, like you said, that depending on where you're at, a Federale bribe is going to be anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5,000 pesos, probably 2 to 3. A state cop bribe is going to be running you probably 500 to 2,000 or something like that. And a city cop bribe is going to run 100, 200 to 500, 200 to 1,000 pesos. So the higher the level you go. So if you are in the wrong, you can do it, but don't do it in your backyard, if anything, or just don't do it. Just take the ticket, like we said.
Yeah, just take the ticket. So another thing that I've seen a lot as to why people should get a driver's license, because if you don't know this and you're watching this for the very first time, you're curious about Mexico, you can actually drive with your foreign driver's license as long as it's valid and for the amount of time that you have permission to be in Mexico. So if you're a permanent resident, you can drive indefinitely on a foreign driver's license. If you're a temporary, it's based on the amount on your temporary. If you're a tourist, it's based on the amount on your FMM. But a lot of people have mentioned getting a Mexican driver's license as a way because of this, because they might want to keep your driver's license if you get stopped. So have you heard about this, and do you have anything to add? Like, why?
Yeah. Actually, this happened to me the other day. I was driving back from Bucerias from helping somebody get their driver's license, ironically enough. And I went to make a call to my uncle, hit my phone, as I'm at the stoplight and pulling away, to the Bluetooth, goes to the car Bluetooth system. And like 2-3 miles down the road, I get pulled over, and the cop's like, "You're on your phone?" I'm like, "No, I wasn't. I was on Bluetooth." And he's like, "No, you were back in Bucerias." I go, "Okay, true, fair enough. All right. Here's my driver's license, my Mexican driver's license. Here's my registration card. He didn't ask for insurance. They don't typically do." And Eddie, he's like, okay, I'm going to write you a ticket. You can go to the office and go pick it up. And it's funny because I go, it was a little bit of a hurry. I wasn't speeding. I just, and so, and I go, well, could you do me a favor? And he goes, he's walking away, stops. He comes back. He's like, what kind of favor? And I go, could you let me go? Could you let me keep my driver's license? And he goes, and why would I do that? And I go, and a friendship. Amistad. And it's funny, he looks at me and he just kind of goes, and he looks at my driver's license. He looks at it, Jalisco driver's license. He goes, oh, you live here? And I go, yeah. He goes, okay, this time. So it's actually, a lot of people say having a local driver's license will actually get you out of a lot of trouble because you're showing that you're a local. You live here, you're part of the community. You're not just going to go ahead and tear it through and take off. And so that's very beneficial. People also use the driver's licenses as a form of ID to get discounts in certain places. And then also some people choose to use that rather than having their actual immigration card with them, because it does have their group number and stuff like that. Because as we know, if you lose your immigration card, there's a lot of big trouble. A lot of trouble to go ahead and get a new one of those there. So, and as you said, the Mexican driver's license, it's valid in the States, it's valid internationally. You can rent cars with it in the States or Canada, travel, however, I used my Mexican driver's license to get my COVID shot back in Portland, Oregon. So, there we go. We take this? Yeah, let's take it. Sure, no problem.
Interesting, yeah. Well, I know they were opening vaccines to basically anybody, and so a lot of people from Mexico coming into the U.S. to get vaccinated. But yeah, that's a great point. So a cop, an officer, or a federal might see that and say, oh, this guy's local, or this lady's local. They might give you more leeway. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's what we hear from our clientele. That's what they hear.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So that could be a very good reason why you get a driver's license in Mexico, even though you may be okay to drive with your foreign one. So good point. Now,
in touching off that, I apologize for interrupting, but yes, for the majority of people, you have to have temporary permanent residency to get a Mexican driver's license. There's always other states that are more lenient that can work with, but it depends on the cop that you get, because some of our clientele in Bajida Banderas and the Bucerias, La Cruz area, they go, I have temporary residency, but the cop, or I have temporary residency, but the cop says I have to have a Mexican driver's license. Is there a law? I mean, no, but that's what that cop wants you to have, so kind of, you kind of go by the rules of Rome rather than, like I said,
Interesting. Yeah. Again, Mexico is consistently inconsistent. Something.
Yes. That is a great way of summarizing it up.
Yeah. That's funny. No, that's not accurate. We have one more question here. Now I'm more nervous about bribes. I guess I'm thinking a single lady will probably be bribed. I don't know. Don't be nervous.
No, not as a single woman. My good girlfriend of mine, two good girlfriends of mine just moved down from the Bay Area. One drove down with her dog and her mom. One drove down by herself, and she took the route. I told her, I said, don't go that way. That's cartel area where they've had issues. She goes, it's 4 hours less driving. I'm going that way. I'm from Oakland, right? And she had no issues. And they're literally like, it's a very safe place. They respect foreigners. They respect people for the most part here. You will not have any issues. Like I said, it's just, if you start playing that game, they'll go ahead with it. But if you just play nice, clean, straight and narrow, I'll take the ticket. Thanks very much. They're more likely to let you go, or you won't have any issues. It's very, very rare I have people report any issues with me.
Yeah, just don't be nervous. That's the key. Know what your rights are, first of all, right? Know that if somebody's asking for a bribe, they're doing something illegally. And if you point that out to them, I guarantee you will be let go. I mean, it's just they can get in a lot of trouble if you report.
A lot of trouble. They don't have trouble. That's the one thing is you pull out your phone. You pull out your phone like, I don't understand a video call, and picture. You don't want to take a picture of their face. They don't want that, but you can take a picture of their patrol vehicle, of their ID. And they don't like pictures. They, as soon as you get out, I have a girlfriend of mine, she gets pulled over for speeding, and they start bothering a little bit. And she goes, video, taking a video, and they're like, hey, go, hey, have a nice day, morning, bye.
Yeah, never mind.
Don't hesitate to get somebody on the phone or native Spanish speaker, and they say, I had one friend, they would call their attorney, or a friend that would pose as their attorney every time. They go, I don't know, talk to my attorney, abogado, and cops are like, no, it's all right. But again, this is like 10 years ago. I think there's been a huge change in the last 5 to 10 years in the culture, and really an active effort to get rid of corruption and stuff like that. And there's still some people that they think it's a game. There's expats here that they think it's a game. They think it's fun to go ahead and bribe, and like you said, Mariana, that's not helping us move forward with a way past that culture. So
yeah, and I think a lot of the people that actually bribe are Mexicans. Maybe not so much expats. It's the local economy. Because they don't want to have to deal with it. They're just like, they're in a hurry. And I may be thinking more in the bigger cities like Mexico City, Guadalajara. They don't want to deal with it. They're in a hurry. But maybe in these smaller areas, and again, don't be nervous. That's the key. If you do end up getting caught in a situation where you don't know how to communicate, we actually have 2 services that are specifically for people who have limited Spanish and are stuck in a situation with emergency services, where you can call and somebody will get on the phone with you. We'll speak Spanish to that person. We'll speak English to you. We'll act like a translator, knows what the laws are. So I have 2 available services in our online course that I recommend. And they do cost a fee. It's very minimal. I think it's like $15.
That's nothing. I would recommend people, for example, Muse, who's nervous about coming down, contract that service. That way, if you get stopped along the way, and if you get stopped, I've been stopped. I got stopped driving in Mexico because the cop could tell I was just lost, and I'm like Puerto Vallarta, just outside of Mazatlan, and he's like, come on, So don't think they're all out to get you. They're concerned. They want to put you in the right path. But definitely having a service like that to go ahead and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Okay, he's telling you this, da. He's asking for this, da. Oh my God, what a lifesaver right there. Do it already.
Yeah. So we do have services like that, and I'm sure you can find others. Your attorney is also a good one that might offer that. Like, hey, call me if you ever have any problems.
Go with your service. It's cheaper than an attorney.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you actually have an Airbnb. So how would people be able to find your Airbnb? Is it ready already? Can people stay? Oh, looks like we may have cut off here, Pat. So join us back in a second. Looks like we had an interruption in your internet for a second.
We're back.
We're back. Okay. So you have an Airbnb. Can people stay there now?
Soon. I'm actually just doing some grout work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. As soon as you're ready, we'd love to start promoting that. For anybody who's interested in scoping out Puerto Vallarta, that could be a great option for you. What neighborhood is it in?
In Cinco de Diciembre, it's the downtown neighborhood at the beginning of the Malecon.
Perfect. So talk about walkability in Puerto Vallarta in, like, for example, this neighborhood and around the Malecon.
One more time, I'm sorry?
Would somebody need a car in Puerto Vallarta, or could they get around walking or public transportation?
No. I helped 3 people get the driver's license yesterday, expats that live in Zona Romantica in Old Town, and none of them have a car here. One of them, his California driver's license had expired, and he wasn't about to go back to California to go get a driver's license renewed there. And another one is thinking about buying a car, and then another one was just going ahead and renewing that they had. So no, we've got great the buses, everything. From one end of the Malecon to the other is a 30-minute walk. Leisurely 30-minute walk. So everything's very close here. A car is nice. When it's a little warmer out, if you're going to the grocery store, if you want to do on some adventures, or you're living outside of the immediate Puerto Vallarta area, or up on the hill. Ironically enough, people that love it, we have lots of big hills here. People will buy a car just to get up and down that hill because those Ubers and taxis get expensive. So and there's so much to see. There's you can go south of Puerto Vallarta, you can go north, you can go, like I said, the road trips here are just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. My favorite ones is in January, February, March, just driving out to Michoacan to go see the monarch butterflies. So people can rent cars. There are car rental services. A lot of them will restrict the car to within 120 kilometers, about 60 something miles of the greater Puerto Vallarta area. But no, it's not a necessity, but it's nice to have. It is really nice to have.
Yeah, definitely. Just to have your own wheels and be able to explore the area around you. So many beaches that are very different one from the other. Sayulita is completely different than San Pancho. Puerto Vallarta is different than Nuevo Vallarta. So yeah, definitely, I agree. Well, I want to be mindful of your time because I know you have a lot of work
so much.
today.
Yeah, I'm heading off to Costa Rica to do some driver's licenses.
Yeah,
so last minute.
I'm going to put up your page one more time if anybody's interested. It's also in the comments. Contact Pat. He does not only work in Puerto Vallarta. Driver's license is only Puerto Vallarta, right?
No, driver's license for Puerto Vallarta and Nayarit, and we do have access to the driver's licenses for other places as well.
Okay, well, there you go. If you want to get your car registration or need a Mexican driver's license when you move to Mexico.
Or tip extension.
Or tip extension. That's very true. Probably one of the most important ones. Yeah, tip extension. If you need any of those services, and I really recommend you following his page regardless, because he shares a lot of really great tips on moving to Mexico, living in Mexico, safety on the roads, which routes to avoid, just so much information that would be really, really beneficial to anybody curious about living in Mexico. So,
thank you for having me so much, Marianne. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you're watching this replay and you have any more questions in the future, feel free to comment them and I'll share them with Pat and we'll answer those as best as we can. So thank you, everybody.
Bye for now.
Thank you, Pat. Bye.